I'm Father James T. Bumangabang, a member of the Recollet Augustinian family, and as of now, I am currently the Vice President for Academics of the University of San Jose Recoletos. I was born in the city of Pines, that is Baguio City, in 1971.
And your ancestors?
Okay. My parents descended from the province of Ifugao, and they are called Igorots, the member of the Ifugao. And they went to Baguio and met together as husband and wife after the incident of the Japanese invasion in the northern part, and most of the people, if not all of the people, were being moved out from their own places. That's why my father reached the city of Pines that time. There he and my mother started to start a family there, and they stayed there for so long until all of us were born, and we are 11 in the family. And now, since he's old, he's back to the province, and he's enjoying the good nature of our place, because Baguio now is very overpopulated.
And in your master's research, talk about that.
Yeah. My master thesis is all about the ritual of our the Ifugao ritual, which is the Baki, in compared to the Eucharistic celebration, which is a Catholic Christian ritual. Our ritual is called by the people as paganistic. It's a ritual of the Ifugao, asking Kabunyan, who is termed in the Catholic or in the Christian way as God, asking for petitions, prayer, and that is how we are regarding our God in Ifugao, which is called Kabunyan, and that is our prayer, that is our ritual, asking for any kind of petition. So there are so many rituals, there are so many kind of rituals. I concentrated on the Baki, which is the general term of the ritual. So the Baki is the ritual itself, and the person who is doing the ritual is called the Mumbaki, as compared to the Catholic ritual. It is the holy sacrifice of the Mass, and the person is called a priest, and that is how they are being called. So exactly the same, but of different term.
Exactly what do you do in the ritual?
In the ritual, we have to start, of course, we do the ritual according to the occasion, according to the intention. For example, we do the ritual when we have the Thanksgiving for the sick, and other occasions, the cycle in the life cycle, because we have so many rituals in the uh, being done, because as the cycle of the human cycle, we start from uh, the wedding, and there's another ritual for the wedding, and then once the couple is living already, they have when they bore a son or a child, there is another ritual, and then so on and so forth, before and then until the death of the person. There is also a ritual for the death, which is generally called baki, but of different intention and different way of doing it, and different way of the prayer that we are saying, we are doing. Like in the mass, we have the prayer for uh, the when we do the sacraments, sacrament of baptism, when we do the wedding rites, and when we do confirmation, like that, that is of different prayers. You can stop. Okay, so regarding the similarities and differences, I guess I can say that more on the similarities, because but I can say also about the similarity, the differences. The differences is only how the ritual and the Eucharistic celebration is being celebrated as a ritual. In the Baki, we cannot say the sign of the cross as compared to the Catholic Mass or the Catholic rituals, when we have to start with the sign of the cross. For us,
How do you do the sign of the cross?
we do like this. That is the sign of the cross. You make this cross starting from the forehead to your upper navel, and then the left shoulder and the right shoulder, and that is the cross. For the Baki, we cannot do that. We go directly asking the Kabunyan, who is the Maknongan or the God, and presenting our intention. That is how the Baki is being done in the Ifugao Baki ritual. But there are so many songs or prayers being done in order for the petitions to be heard by the Maknongan. We call God as Maknongan in Ifugao, and the similarities in the Catholic ritual is that once we ask God to intercede for our prayers and answer for our prayers, the same way that we are saying or we are doing in the Ifugao ritual, which is the Baki. We ask for intercession, we ask for prayer, especially for a special need. That is also in the when we celebrate the Mass. That is how we are doing. We are praying and we are presenting our special need. There is a part there that in the Mass that we are presenting our intention. Another difference of the Baki and the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass is that in the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass, we are acknowledging our sinfulness before we continue the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass, and begging God to pardon us from our sinfulness, so as to cleanse us from our sinfulness before we are to continue the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass. But for the baki, I don't think that there is a part there that we are asking for forgiveness for our sins. That might be the difference. That is one of the differences that is unique in the Catholic ritual as compared to the baki. But the other commonalities of the rituals that we have this celebration which is done after the during the celebration. Before ending the celebration, there is an offering being offered. For the baki, we offer animals like chicken, pigs, and other animals according to the economic situation of the family, and it depends on the need of the ritual or the kind of the ritual. In the holy sacrifice of the mass, we are only using unleavened bread and the wine, and we are also using wine in our ritual, that is the baya in Ifugao, in the baki, and that is the difference, the commonalities of the two. And then after eating, after everything is being done, then all will partake the food, which is similar in both Catholic and in the Baki ritual. And after that, like in the holy sacrifice of the Mass, we are to end with a prayer. The same way with the Baki, that after eating the food being prepared, then we have to end up with a prayer. But it is the part which is part of the ritual, and asking God or the kabunyan or maknongan, thanking him for the celebration. And that is also being done in the holy sacrifice of the Mass after eating, after the celebration.
And is the wine, the local wine, is made from rice? Or
For the baki, we are using the rice wine, fermented from the rice being made natural by the common people. And then for the holy sacrifice of the Mass, it is purely a grape wine. There's no alcohol in it. Even the rice wine, there is no alcohol in it, but it can make you drunk afterwards because maybe of the there is an ingredients that being put in the rice wine to produce the wine, the juice from that rice being cooked, and then it will ferment.
is the wine that's used different from the regular drinking wine?
Yeah, that is our our wine is called baya. As compared to other wines, it's made from the grapes and others, and other wines also. There are wines made out of coconut and some other like sugar cane. There are some, but for us, it's purely rice wine.
So this wine is especially made for the sacrament of the Baki.
Yeah, we use that. That is really an important part, important material needed in the baki. And in the baki, we are using also there is what we call mm, the meat being preserved long time ago, and then it will be put at the center of the place where the baki is to be done, and that is to acknowledge that there is the baki to be done.
Now, were there ever any Mumbakis who were priests?
I don't. There is no Mumbaki who are priests because it's against uh, the Catholic way. Because for the Catholic Christians, they are considering the Mumbaki as it is not Christian in nature. But for me, as a Catholic priest, this is part of my culture. I consider them as the native priests in our tribe, in the Ifugao culture. They are.
So you'll join the ceremony, but as a participant, but you've never considered being a...
Yeah, I am. I joined, but I did never being called as a Mumbaki. Some people are calling me Mumbaki in the Christian way, which is a priest. Because the Mumbaki also is before you are to perform the ritual, is you have to undergo process of formation. Like the priest, we have also a series of formation before we are being ordained. That is also being done in the formation of the Mumbaki.
And for example, let's take a funeral.
Mm.
Funeral rites, is there a difference in a traditional ceremony? And nowadays, do anybody prefer to have a traditional ceremony as opposed to a Catholic?
Yeah, in the tradition for the burial, there we have our traditional way of doing it, and then in the Christian way, we used to say the mass or prayer for the other other Christian denominations. Like in the Ifugao culture, we also are doing our prayer, maybe similar to that, but of different way of doing it. But the intention is the same, asking God to accept the soul of the dead person to where the dead person is supposed to go and enjoy the life that he or she is to enjoy after the earthly life.
Now, so people may be buried in their family plot.
Yeah, regarding the burial, the grave site, usually before, when I was still a child, we are doing the traditional way. We put it in the caves and or any vacant land owned by the family, and there is no common graveyards. But for the Catholic, we have the Catholic cemetery, wherein the dead is to be buried. But for us, is that once you own a lot, a portion of there, once the family is a member of the family is dead, they used to bury their dead in their own lot, in their own compound, very near to their house, or maybe far from their house, maybe in their farms, like that, as compared to the Catholic cemetery wherein you are going to put it in the cemetery. Now, before is that the usual thing that the manner of burying the dead is through the caves. That's why even in the mountain provinces there are so many hanging coffins in the caves. But for now, it's almost the same in the Catholic way of making the grave. We also accepted already the cemented grave, and then that's also part of the even in the other culture, in the other Christian denominations, they are to cement uh, a burial site that and there are some that we are to bury the dead 6 feet below the ground, which is also practiced in the Catholic way, that we have to bury the dead. It depends on the choice of the family.
And so within the same family, if some people prefer the Catholic burial and some prefer a traditional burial, but we still buried together in the same family plot?
Yeah, because now in our case, we are now doing all the rituals. Some first we are doing the local rituals, the baki, and before saying the holy sacrifice of the mass for Catholics, and even the non-Catholic, sometimes if we have relatives if we have non-Catholic relatives, they're also doing their Christian worship, a Christian prayer for the dead. But usually the holy sacrifice of the mass will be done, the last ritual to be done, in order before the dead is to be buried, because afterwards the priest will proceed to the grave and bless the tomb where the dead is to be buried. So as I observe, mostly if not all of the time, the Catholic ritual comes the last to be done, the finale, and the most participated, because even in our tribe, we are mostly Catholics, predominant Catholic people. That's why once a family, once a person is dead with some relatives who are non-Catholics, they are requesting the family if they can perform their own prayer for that person. What is accepted for the family is that the respect and the intention of the ones doing the prayer.
And so, what about idols? Are there things which the traditional worship involves in its sacraments?
Yeah, we are also in the Baki, in our culture, in the Ifugao culture. We also are having our somewhat sacraments. For example, after the boy is to after the person is the birth of a newly born child, there is a ritual to be done, and that is the integration of the newly child born to the community, and that is also being done in the Catholic way. That is the baptism, acceptance of the person to be a member of the congregation or to be a member of the church. That is being done. And as the person is growing up to teenage life, there is another ritual to be done, also in the Baki, because that is part of the cycle of the human person. Even in the Catholic life, in the Catholic tradition, we have also the after the baptism, we have this first Holy Communion. Afterwards is the confirmation, wherein you are being confirmed and you are being confirmed to become more or deeper Christian, and you become the soldier of Christ. And even in the Baki, we are also doing that, but it is being called different way. That is part of the ritual.
So is it like in the time of puberty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It depends on the age. In the Catholic tradition, we do the First Holy Communion once you are in grade 3 or grade 4 and up, once you understand what you are to receive the sacraments. For confirmation, it's after the First Holy Communion or after the baptism, the sacrament after baptism, which is being done when the person reach 8 or 9 years old and up, and that is a requirement before you are to receive the other sacraments. So in the Catholic ritual, in the Catholic tradition, baptism is required before you are to receive the First Holy Communion. And then before you are to be confirmed, you have to receive the sacrament of confirmation, sacrament of baptism, and you have to receive the First Holy Communion. And before you receive the sacrament of matrimony, we are not that particular in having those kind of rituals before you are to receive the ritual for marriage. But before you are to receive the marriage, or yeah, there are rituals to be done, like the panunuyo sa family. You're going to, the man will go to the family of the lady, the woman, asking the hand of the lady before you are to continue living as to continue your relationship, asking much more if you are to ask the hand of the lady before the sacrament, before doing the ritual for marriage. And that is I really forget the term in our traditional way, but there is a proper ritual being done. But mostly now it is not being observed because of the influence of Christianity already. But there are still some who are doing all these ritual before as part of the cycle of the human life.
And then so there's other Christian faiths or denominations among the indigenous groups, Ifugao, and is predominantly Catholic.
Yeah.
What else?
We have Protestants. The Catholic is the predominant religion of the Filipinos, and then even the Ifugaos. Second is Protestant, and there are other Jehovah's Witnesses, Iglesia ni Cristo, and few from the other Christian denominations. In the Ifugao culture, we respect the nature, and then we call the nature as part of the environment of the person, and it is very very important because in the that is where humans are living in the environment. So there are some who are praying to the trees. It depends on the kind of the ritualistic that they have, that might be part of the paganistic that they are having. Some for big stones like that, part of the not idolatry, but there is something that they have seen, especially the big stones like that. So for some, they consider that this is extraordinary. So
And ancestors are
our ancestors, we call our first ancestors as Bugan and Wigan. Bugan is the female and Wigan is the male, representing the representing in the book of Genesis as Adam and Eve, the male and the female as created by God.
and your immediate family, like your grandparents who passed away, would they be remembered in the house? Would you pray to or offer food to them?
For my own family, I grew up with a Christian way of life, but there are some instances that we are doing the rituals because of the nature of the particular needs that we are having. Even though I am a priest, I also have a sister who is a nun. We respect what our relatives are suggesting because that is part of our culture and part of us as a Catholic, as a person, and that is being respected. And each time that we will do this this ritual, the people will always saying that why are you doing, they are questioning the family that why are you doing this kind of ritual when in fact you have a priest in the family and a nun in the family, but our old relatives will continue to do it because that is part of the culture. And for us, we are not saying that it will not be done. It is to be done with respect.
And so, what sort of thing do people do for the ancestors in the ritual? Do they offer food or prayers or?
Yeah, in case of the rituals, for example, for the dead, relatives, members of the clan will always bring livestock, pigs, chickens, aside from money to be offered. And that is part of the culture of us as relatives, as members of the clan, showing our respect to help the family who are in dire need. And that is being done, and the one who is bringing, for example, the chicken or the pig, once it is being offered, and after it is being butchered, and they have to check the bile of the animal. If it is healthy, then they are very happy, because for them it is accepted. The offering is accepted. What they have given is accepted by the spirits.
And they're praying to the spirit of the ancestor or to God?
In the Catholic ritual, we are saying it, or we are terming it as our offering it to kabunyan, to the spirits, to the spirit. And that is also what we are doing in the Catholic way, that we are praying to God and we are offering. Sometimes in the harvest, we are offering the best harvest during offertory, and then we are supposed to offer the best harvest, the best fruits to the church as our show of thanksgiving. But for us in the Ifugao ritual, in the traditional way, it is help to the family, and it is being cooked for everybody to eat afterwards.
And so, as you mentioned, different animals may be given depending on the financial ability of a family involved.
Yeah. There are some who are bringing pigs because their capability in terms of financial capability, they can afford to buy pigs. And then for some who can afford chicken and other livestock, then they can bring. And then that is not the end of it, but once those who offer are also in need, the person being helped also in turn will show the same way as a show of help to the family who is in need. But it will be of the process of give and take once you are in need of it. The conflict.
Is there any conflict between the traditional practice of praying to a tree or a spirit of a rock and the Catholic faith?
Yeah, it depends on your understanding. For me, my understanding is that maybe the conflict is that the Catholic is seeing it as paganistic, the traditional way. But if you are to study the deeper meaning of it, how it is being done, and then maybe the theology of it, if there is, then I guess the similarity is more as compared to its differences. And that is, it depends on the person's understanding.
So, for example, St. Francis of Assisi is considered
In the
Catholic. Would that be similar? Or?
yeah, in the Catholic doctrine in the Catholic way of life, we have the saints. We have so many saints. In the traditional way, in the Ifugao culture, we also have these people whom we are calling as it depends on the Mumbaki who knew very well these people who are who might have or who have been dead long time ago, and they are being considered as the most important people, personalities asking for intercession. That is also how the Catholic is doing, asking, for example, the saints for prayers.
See, so if somebody is sick and they need a prayer for them,
Yeah.
what would be the difference between the Mumbaki's presence and the priest's presence? Would they work together for the health of the person if that person is...
It depends. Regarding the sick, it depends on the family if they will have the anointing of the sick first, like that. Once they are contented with that, then. But for some, they are still doing the traditional way, the baki for the sick, and then how to do it is different because in the Catholic way, if it is not done in the holy sacrifice of the Mass, which is commonly done and not done, there's no celebration. But for the traditional way, for us in the Ifugao culture, after having the ritual, there is a celebration wherein all the gathered are being fed according to what animals being killed or offered during the rituals, and everybody who are gathered will partake the food being prepared by the family. But for the Catholic tradition, the priest will just go and visit and then maybe do the anointing of the sick and give communion to the sick person, like that, and then nothing afterwards. That is the what the Catholic is doing.
Is traditional medicine use still common?
For now, yeah, before the traditional medicine is being used by people in the different tribe because there were no hospitals before, and even until now it's being used. But since hospitals, medicines are available already, so we can also avail of medicines. But there are some sickness, even though you consult a lot of doctors and the illness will not be cured, then the family will turn into that ritual, asking the Mumbaki to do and perform the ritual for the sick. And the Mumbaki will always say that this is how we are to do it, and this is what we are to offer.
And how often does the traditional medicine involve sacrifice of a goat or a chicken, for example? In some tradition cultures, such as African traditional medicine, we have usually some blood from a goat or a chicken. Does that occur or is more herbal remedies?
I don't know if the blood matters in the ritual, although it matters, but if it will not be used as medicine in the Ifugao traditional way.
But still,
It is sometimes they are cooking it, and part of it, the the blood will be consumed by the people gathered
As a food.
as a food.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. But it will not be used as a medicine.
Okay, no, well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
a very fascinating and very important in cross-cultural reflections.
Yeah. So this is just a short reflection because if we if opportunity comes, then it's better to really consult or talk with the Mumbaki so that they can explain it very well, because for me this is just how I have seen it and how a Catholic race person perceive the Ifugao ritual, and that is for me my a little knowledge of my own culture.
Thank you, Father.
Okay, very much welcome.